When you think about ancient genealogies, especially one as famous as the genealogy of Christ, you probably picture this long, long list of fathers, right? Kings, patriarchs, a real who's who of men. But woven into that very fabric are the stories of four women whose lives were anything but conventional. And trust me, their inclusion changes everything.
I mean, their stories are filled with scandal, deception, and these incredible, shocking acts of faith. We're talking about outsiders, women living on the margins, whose decisive actions in these absolutely desperate moments literally altered the course of history. So let's dive in and find out who they were and why their stories are so incredibly significant.
All right, so here's our game plan. We're going to unpack the incredible stories of these four matriarchs. First Tamar, then Rahab, Ruth, and finally Bathsheba. We'll get into their individual struggles and choices, and then we'll connect all the dots to see what their combined stories tell us about this amazing lineage of grace.
Okay, let's start with Tamar. Her story is, well, it's a masterclass in demanding justice when the system has completely failed you. It's this wild tale of broken promises, deep desperation, and an act of deception so bold it forces a patriarch to look in the mirror and admit his own guilt.
So Tamar's story kicks off with her being a Canaanite, an outsider who marries into the prominent family of Judah. After her first husband dies, she's given to his brother, which was the custom back then. But then he dies too. So her father-in-law, Judah, promises her his third and last son, but he never delivers. He just sends her away, basically leaving her in this awful limbo with no husband, no children, and no future.
Realizing she's been completely abandoned, Tamar takes matters into her own hands. I mean, talk about bold. She disguises herself as a harlot and waits on a road she knows Judah will be traveling. Sure enough, he propositions her. When he can't pay her right away, she very cleverly asks for his personal signet, his bracelets, and his staff as collateral. So fast forward 3 months, she's discovered to be pregnant. Judah, full of righteous anger, orders her to be burned to death. And it's at that exact moment that she plays her trump card, presenting his personal items and revealing that he is the father. And boom, just like that, the tables are completely turned. Faced with undeniable proof, Judah has to publicly confess his own failure. He actually says that her extreme actions were more righteous than his inaction. Her deception didn't just save her life, it secured her rightful place in the family line.
Okay, let's keep going. Our next woman takes us from a family drama straight into an international conflict. Let's talk about Rahab, a prostitute living in the enemy city of Jericho, a city that the invading Israelites have marked for total and complete destruction.
Seriously, just think about the context here for a second. Rahab isn't just an outsider, she's from an enemy nation. Her house is literally built into the city wall of Jericho, the very fortification that the Israelites have to somehow overcome. It is hard to imagine a more dangerous or precarious position to be in. So when 2 Israelite spies sneak into Jericho to scope things out, the king's men are right on their tail. Rahab has to make a split-second life-or-death decision. She hides the spies on a roof and lies to the authorities, sending them on a wild goose chase. Then she strikes a deal. She'll help them escape if they promise to spare her and her family when the city falls. The sign of this covenant? A single scarlet cord, hung from her window, a little beacon of faith in a city that was totally doomed. And this, right here, is the absolute heart of her story. This wasn't just some political calculation to save her own skin. It was a profound declaration of faith. An enemy harlot in a doomed city looks at these 2 spies and says, "I know who your God is." She aligns her fate and her whole family's fate with them. And that faith is what saved her.
Now our third woman, Ruth. She's also a foreigner, but her story isn't one of deception or high-stakes treason. Hers is a quiet, powerful narrative about loyalty, kindness, and what it means to radically belong.
Okay, so Ruth is from Moab, a nation that was often an enemy of Israel. An Israelite family moves to her land during a famine, and she marries one of the sons. But then, tragedy just keeps striking. Her husband, her brother-in-law, and her father-in-law all die. She's left with just her mother-in-law, Naomi, who, completely broken and bitter, decides to go back home to Bethlehem. Now, against all logic, Naomi tells Ruth to go back to her own people, to her own gods. But Ruth refuses. She clings to Naomi and follows her to Bethlehem, a place where she'll be a poor foreigner. To survive, she works tirelessly, picking up leftover grain in the fields. And it's there that her loyalty and her amazing character catch the eye of the field's owner, a good man named Boaz, who just happens to be a relative. Through this ancient custom of the kinsman redeemer, he marries her, restores her family's line and their future. This is honestly one of the most powerful declarations of loyalty you will ever read. Ruth isn't just choosing to stick with Naomi. She is choosing a new people, a new homeland, and a new God. And this incredible, steadfast love completely changes not only her destiny, but Naomi's too, turning all their bitterness and emptiness into fullness and hope.
And right here, this is where it all starts to connect in the most amazing way. Check this out. Tamar's son Pharez is an ancestor of a man named Salmon. And who does Salmon marry? Rahab, the woman from Jericho. And their son is Boaz, the very same man who marries Ruth. And their child, Obed, becomes the grandfather of Israel's greatest king, David. Isn't that incredible? 3 outsider women, their scandalous and beautiful stories, all interwoven to create a royal line.
But the line doesn't get simpler or cleaner from there. Oh no. In fact, our final story is maybe the most scandalous of them all, because it involves King David himself and a terrible, terrible abuse of power. This is the story of Bathsheba. So, Bathsheba is married to a man named Uriah the Hittite. And Uriah is not just any soldier. He's a man of incredible integrity, one of King David's most loyal and devoted commanders. And while Uriah is away at war fighting for his king, David is back home in the palace in Jerusalem. From his palace roof, David sees Bathsheba bathing. He uses his royal power to have her brought to him, and he sleeps with her. When she sends word that she's pregnant, his sin just snowballs into this desperate, ugly cover-up. He calls her husband Uriah home from the war, hoping he'll sleep with his wife so everyone will think the baby is his. But Uriah's honor is so great that he refuses to go home while his men are still in the field. So David commits the ultimate betrayal. He sends a death warrant with Uriah himself, ordering his commander to put him on the front lines and then pull back, leaving him to be killed.
The crime seems perfect, but it's not hidden from God. The prophet Nathan comes and confronts David. He tells him a simple story about a rich man who steals a poor man's only beloved lamb. When David furiously condemns the rich man, Nathan points his finger and delivers these 4 devastating words that just echo through history. "Thou art the man." The king's sin is exposed, the consequences are severe, but eventually Bathsheba gives birth to another son, Solomon, who will one day inherit the throne.
So after hearing these 4 really intense stories, right, you have to ask the big question, why these women? I mean, why are their complicated, messy, sometimes scandalous lives given such a prominent place in this sacred genealogy? What is going on here?
Well, let's connect the dots. Look at the common threads. The majority of them were outsiders, foreigners. Their stories are all touched by scandal, sin, and some serious moral ambiguity. And yet, in these unbelievably difficult circumstances, every single one of them shows incredible agency. They make bold choices that shape their own destiny. Their inclusion shows us that this is not a story about perfect people. It's a story of redemption, where human flaws aren't hidden or whitewashed, but are woven right into the fabric of the story of grace.
And that really just leaves us with a final thought to chew on. What does it say about a history, about a faith, about a God, when the foundational story isn't built on the flawless resumes of the powerful, but on the complicated, courageous, and scandalous actions of women on the margins? It suggests a story where grace is way bigger than our failures, and where absolutely everyone, no matter what their past looks like, has a place.